Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet.
Hi, welcome to episode 32 of the My House Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Overstreet, and today I'm joined by James Savage from True North Recovery and the Day One Center, Dillon's Place. James, thank you for being here. Before we get started, Isaac, do you have any housekeeping for us?
Well, the day that this is releasing, I'm in D.C. right now presenting at the National Conference, and this Friday is the golf tournament. So if you're listening to this as it comes out, there still might be one spot left open for a golf team registration. I believe closes in just a couple days. So if this is Monday, you need to get on it. The check-in is at 8:00 at Settlers Bay Lodge. And also, I'm just going to shout out the fact that the groundbreaking was on Friday, and I'm sure it went fabulous, even though we're right in the middle of a frenzy of planning all at once to get ready for this, because this is 2 days before the groundbreaking. But I'm sure it went fabulous. So yay, Michelle. Thank you for everything that you do and everything that you've done for the organization. Super exciting stuff. Not maybe the beginning of the end of the first wave of planning for the building, and now stuff actually gets to start happening, which is exciting. Yeah,
very exciting. James, thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
So grateful for you and the work that you do at the Day One Center. We've been dreaming about this literally for 15 years. When we started the opioid task force in 2015, and before that, we on the housing and homeless side of the table could see that there was a need for recovery services, stabilization services, and the role that your organization plays at that Day One Center is so critical to our continuum of care. I think a lot of people don't realize the value of this, and every city, every borough, every state organization that offers funding should be funding exactly what you're doing, because it's the pathway to recovery for homeless. And we have all these programs across the country that are doing housing first. They're saying housing is the solution. Well, housing is only a piece of the solution. You can't get out of homelessness without exit strategies. And what you offer is a wide open doorway to a really cool exit strategy. Tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Day One Center is essentially behavioral health urgent care. This is an opportunity for an individual that is in crisis or has identified that they have a need for substance use or mental health care of any kind to really engage in that service at a street outreach level. This is an opportunity for somebody to come in and just simply say, I've got some stuff going on. I don't know what that stuff is, and I need somebody to help me identify what that is. And for some of our folks, it's very cut and dry, and they need withdrawal management services. And for others, they come in and an outside entity or what we would call a referral source has sent them in to see us. And maybe they've had a issue in life or a one-time, quote unquote offense that has brought them to us. And there's somebody that's letting them know that they need a program of some kind or an assessment. And all of those pieces are housed within Day One. And I know that your organization and the things that we do are focused around homelessness, and substance abuse is a catalyst to homelessness, right?
So crazy.
Day One gets to walk through a lot of that with a lot of the individuals we see, and the reality is most of the folks that we see and serve could have been seen and served in my house at one point in their life, or had they been caught earlier on, maybe they wouldn't be seeing me.
Mm-hmm. There's tremendous value in the community partnerships. We don't always find them, and what we're seeing right now is a lot of people coming out here from Anchorage that are released from a homeless situation there, whether it's a Sullivan Arena or the camps or whatever they are doing, and they come out here, so they've never had access to a community like ours before. And our outreach and community members that are calling us are saying, they're trying to camp in front of my business, or they're sleeping in the doorway of a business. And when we show up with outreach and say, we don't do that in this community, we have services for you, we can help you, and the police aren't going to let you stay here in front of this business. It's a different posture and a different perspective. And what I am so proud of is that we treat people well in this community. We treat them like they matter. They are cared for. The wraparound services, I think, really leave a lot of doors open. I know that you guys operate from a, what's the term?
So the term is no wrong door or low barrier approach. And that is kind of a term that has been coined with the Crisis Now model that is kind of moving across our United States as the new quote unquote thing for caring for individuals. I like the term low barrier as opposed to no wrong door because there's not a community in Alaska currently that houses all of the Crisis Now model. So low barrier is our goal, and that community outreach piece is incredibly important. And I think a big reason that our community is so adept at doing that is those of us that were at that first opioid task force meeting and that made this movement come to fruition in our community. A large variety of us are all in recovery or have suffered through these things in one form or fashion, whether it's a person in long-term recovery or it's a family member that has lost somebody or just a professional with a high level of compassion. Those are the people that comprise the task force, and they're the ones that have had the community's ears and the business owner's ear when these issues arise. Day One also houses our mobile crisis team, and we're engaging with these individuals in their crises in the community as an as needed basis, and the outcomes are astounding.
Oh, I love that you're talking about the mobile crisis team because I've had several different police officers say, we love the mobile crisis team. We used to come on a police call and we would show up and somebody would be overdosed or having a behavioral health meltdown or some variation on that theme. And not only are we not trained for that, but we've got calls coming in for a burglary or a high-speed chase, and we're standing there with somebody in the middle of a bipolar meltdown. And it really isn't a police opportunity for intervention, but for a mobile crisis team with a crisis stabilization center where they can pick somebody up and take them to where they need to go. It frees up the police officers' time. It relieves them of the feeling of helplessness that they get when they show up and they don't know what to do or they don't have anything to do. And I guess I would just communicate to you that there's tremendous love from the police department.
Wasilla Police Department has become a really unlikely ally for me personally, and then for my team. I shared earlier that the task force is comprised in large part by people in recovery. Our organization is comprised even more so of individuals in recovery. So the idea of working alongside law enforcement officers and really building the partnership and the camaraderie that has come to fruition through this initiative has been really, really cool to see. All of my staff, all of our team, they don't flinch when they see a cruiser pull in the driveway anymore. They love seeing our police officer counterparts come into the building and visit. We're meeting with Wasilla PD a couple times a week, and that really goes a long ways for folks that are in the building, for folks that are in the community to see that the stigma doesn't have to go both directions. I got to share with one of our law enforcement partners the stigma for a police officer is very real considering our national climate. Oh man. And getting to normalize, they've got some initiatives going around, normalizing the badge and the human being that is wearing it. It goes a long ways in similarity to folks in recovery that have had to fight tooth and nail to get a voice at the table. Somebody I love and respect says quite often, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And for a long time, our law enforcement partners and our folks that are struggling with addiction and alcoholism have been on the menu because they didn't have a voice at the table. So giving us an opportunity to do that in this shared setting has been absolutely amazing.
That is awesome. I really love the idea that as a community we come together and we're able to knit together law enforcement, crisis services, homeless services, and recovery services in a way that is so cohesive and comprehensive. We can cover so much more ground than some of the piecemeal. You do that over there. Oh gosh, okay. Well, we do this over here, and there isn't that cohesion that we have, and what a blessing! It's just a tremendous blessing. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your patience and your continual dedication to standing in the gap and representing for those seeking recovery, and also those who are grieving. The Day One Center, I want to mention Karen Malcolm Smith, because she made a huge donation that was able to help get that up off the ground in the name of her son Dylan. And that piece, that passion that is anchored in the community, and that really is anchored in the grief of families who have lost somebody to addiction, is part of the glue that I think holds us all together.
Yeah, absolutely. And the keystone in all of this is the people doing the work. There's all kinds of discussion about doing the work, and there's a handful of people that are workers. And we have been blessed and lucky enough to be, joined with the workers. We've got a lot of individuals that have really stepped up to the plate and put their shoulder to the plow and made things happen for Day One, other programs within our organization, and as a community that has allowed us to put things into practice. I know that other communities that have stood up crisis services in the way that we have gotten immense amounts of pushback in where their buildings were, what their partnerships could be or should be, or somebody that's already doing that service in the community. And the reality is as a result of the workers and the people with compassion, love, and tolerance to do what we're doing, we've felt very little resistance in that area. And that makes it incredibly easy to want to do it more.
Yeah, that's a testament to the way that your organization does community. And it's powerful, it's informative. I think that you're constantly educating everybody, myself included. I think it's compassionate in a way that is different than just being compassionate by word. It's compassionate by deed in every circumstance. And I think there's tremendous value in that, but there's also tremendous power in that. And that's where you gather together and change. This is how we change the world, James.
Well, I would love to tell you that one day I will work myself out of a job, but in the chosen field, I don't think that's a reality. I certainly hope that individuals that see the work that we're doing find somebody to help.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's, in the last few months, we've had a lot of people coming and going and kind of connecting with what we're doing. We've got a group coming from Medford, Oregon next month just to take a look at the model. And when we talk about all of our community connections, they're going down a checklist and saying, do we have this? Do we have this? Do we have this? And they're going to be going back and looking at how do we get these pieces that we don't have in our community. My fervent prayer is that they have somebody passionate and compassionate to carry that flag for them, because I think it's a imperative. This piece that you're providing is such a stepping stone from taking people from the street to the recovery rooms, and there's nothing like it. It should be funded by the local foundations. It should be funded by the city. It should be funded by the borough. It should be funded by the state, and it saves millions and millions of dollars when you look at the end game, from starting with the police calls, that the officers are not hanging around because you've taken care of this client or individual, all the way up to hospital services and social services and jail, where somebody is clean and sober instead of going in and out of jail or in and out of a hospital. And we have the ability, the bottom line is to save lives and help people become significant again in the community. They find significance. They go from being, as a young man described to me one time, sitting outside a grocery store, high on crack and invisible. Everybody who walked past him didn't look at him because they didn't want to deal with what they saw. It was too hard. And he said, I went from being invisible to being significant. And I always wanted to be significant, and I didn't have a pathway to get there. And so thank you for what you do. How can we continue to help you?
So you made a lot of really good points, so I'll backtrack just a little bit. We've got some amazing community partners in foundations and in the state of Alaska through the Department of Behavioral Health, and they have stepped up to the plate. and really supported us in all of these efforts. And there's continued discussion about expansion of multiple areas of Day One and the services that we provide. And the help comes from a community basis. Talk to your loved ones. Talk to individuals that are suffering. Michelle made a really good, what a mental picture of an individual that is walking through life and believes that he's not seen. Have a conversation with that individual and really love them. As far as helping, the best way that you can help us is to find someone to help.
Mm-hmm. I really love that, James. I have battled in my organization 15 years with people who say, well, what that person needs is tough love. And one of the first conversations I had with a family member when I started this was about tough love and what is tough love. And I finally ended up saying there isn't really any room for tough. It's about love. And if you love people, then you have to get with people. You have to be willing to walk with them through this crappy, stupid, sorry, sad, crummy parts of their life to get to the part where you can experience a different kind of love with them. But just walking with them, acknowledging them, looking at them, asking them what they need, being with them when it's difficult. Thoughts about people who struggle with depression and bipolar and some of those behavioral health conditions that are intimidating if you're just a layperson. This is an example of an opportunity where if you have somebody struggling with those things, you could call a mobile crisis team member and they would show up and help you help that person, walk with you, walking with that person. You're not carrying it yourself. You're not keeping it a secret. No one gets helped by secrets. And helping them up out of that quagmire to get to a place where they can make rational decisions.
Well, and you touched on a couple good things there again. The idea of tough love. I believe tough love and the idea that an addict or an alcoholic has to find a bottom are both pretty silly. I wholeheartedly believe that if somebody has made a decision to change, that they have the ability to do that, and they don't have to continue destroying their life to get to a place where it hurts bad enough to change.
Right.
I myself am a person in long-term recovery, and my divine intervention came in the form of handcuffs, and they absolutely deserve to be on my wrist. I don't begrudge the officer that arrested me that day. I have an opportunity now that I get to see him on a regular basis and thank him often. I wholeheartedly believe that people should be held accountable and that boundaries should be set in place so that you can help somebody with love, tolerance, and compassion not have to sacrifice or allow your morals, your beliefs, or your well-being to be infringed upon. And that's what we need as a community, as individuals that are willing to approach, be with, hold space for, spend time with folks that are hurting the way that I used to hurt so that they don't feel invisible and they get an opportunity to connect with a provider of some kind that can help them with the next steps to their recovery journey, whether that's recovery from houselessness, recovery from substance use, recovery from mental health concerns, or just simply needing somebody to see them that day.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That right there, that's a snapshot of, that description is a snapshot of exactly what we were wishing, hoping, and praying for 15 years ago. James, you were at that very first opioid task force meeting. I remember you there, and you were rough.
I was.
You were rough. You were a young man, and maybe with a little chip on your shoulder, but you were passionate. You were committed. You were with us. We really just called a meeting with everyone we could think of. I think 46 people showed up to that meeting, and we had no idea what we were going to do. It was like, let's all get together and figure it out. And that's what I said when John Green called me. He said, Michelle, I don't know where to send people that have problems. I don't know what to tell them. I'm at a loss. I need help. And Michael Carson said, well, I don't know what to tell him either, but let's all get together and figure out, we'll tell him what we tell him, right?
Yeah, and how things have changed and grown since then. I had 66 days clean when I showed up for that meeting.
Is that true? Wow.
And yeah, chip on the shoulder is an accurate description, and I was not a well person, but I was allowed to hang out, right? I showed up to that meeting with two other individuals that allowed me to be seen. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything to offer. I wasn't welcome in a lot of places still. And they said, James, you can hang out with us. And that is the start of my recovery.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. I remember you because I could see your struggle. I mean, that's what I do, right? As a trained psychologist, I'm in a room full of people, and I love to watch people. I forget that I'm in the meeting sometimes and I'm supposed to have a leadership role because I enjoy watching people, and I start watching people and forget that I have responsibilities. And so that's sort of my jam. But I remember you there, and I remember those other two young individuals and the passion and dedication and just complete all out, just tear their chests open and lay everything out on the table in an effort to try to find solutions for the challenges that we were dealing with. And you're right, how things have changed. And
yeah, absolutely. We've got a community of providers that are talking and working and coexisting together with a shared goal of helping our community and the individuals that live in it and suffer the way that I used to suffer. It's really a beautiful thing to see, as in conjunction with the mobile crisis team and some of the services that Day One offers. We've got community providers that have assembled a post-crisis network of care, and this allows streamlined access to care for an individual that has been responded to or is experiencing a crisis. And that looks like, same day or next day access to services that 8 years ago, when we met for an opioid task force meeting on day one, it was 6 weeks, 8 weeks,
right,
3 months from these connections to care that we're providing in 24 to 48 hours for folks that are receiving these services.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
It's amazing. It truly is amazing. We're part of that post-crisis network, and we really had fun sitting down and putting together the pathway for what that would look like. If this, then that, and if the call comes in, who's on call, and where do we get the funding for the on-call time, and all the different pieces that needed to come into place for us to be able to create a platform for people to land on. And having the housing. We didn't have any housing at that time, and that was really a critical piece. We now have 34 beds, and we're building a $23 million building that's going to have another 64 beds. And there will rarely be a time that my goal is that we don't get a call where we can't say, we've got a spot for you to land. That's the goal.
Well, and that's absolutely amazing and beautiful that is on the horizon. And one thing that I think was so frustrating for everybody in the beginning was the idea that there was help coming, right? There's
Right.
help coming. And I remember in so many early meetings, it was always, there's help coming. This new thing it will be available. The services that I've described today are all available.
Yeah.
They're open and active now. If you or a loved one needs access to those services, our main office can be reached at 907-313-1333, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If you're calling outside of those hours or days, we can be reached at 907-982-HOPE, and somebody will respond to you relatively immediately if they don't answer immediately. And these are services that these were very, very lofty dreams and goals when I got clean.
Oh, James, I remember having a conversation with Senator Lisa Murkowski, and thank you to her for the appropriation that's going to help us build this building, but also thank you to her because I've had numerous conversations where Carl and I, the CEO of True North, who's the over organization for the Day One Center, sat down with her and said, this is what we need and this is what our vision is. And she would stop and ask questions about, what do you have now? And this is what you want to do? Okay, and what does your timeline look like for that? And it took me a while to realize that she was not just asking that to be conversational. She was asking that because she wanted to help us. She was in the fight with us and looking for ways to support what we were doing. But I periodically would see flashes of facial expressions on her. Again, my psychologist shoes. I would see flashes of expression on her like, holy wow, these guys are serious. I mean, I can't believe the stuff they're thinking about doing. And it wasn't that long ago. That was 18 months to 2 years ago, where we were still in that dream phase of this is what we want to be able to provide. And today, for you to be able to say that those services are available and that you can make a phone call for a loved one, you can make a phone call for yourself night or day and have somebody show up so that you're not invisible. That really touches my heart. That's how we save lives. This is how we do it, right?
Well, and there shouldn't be invisible people, right? One of my very favorite quotes is by Father Gregory Boyle, And he says we stand with the ostracized so that we don't throw away people anymore. And that's a terrible summary of that quote, but that is what Day One gets to do in the community. I love to see the individuals that are vulnerable and underserved that maybe haven't found their place yet, but they have found a place in Day One, and they continue to return there and feel loved and get fed and all of their basic needs met. And that's the same amazing, awesome feeling that I get to see when I come into my house and see the drop-in center. One of the coolest comparisons or compliments I've ever taken since Day One is launched when describing our walk-in crisis services was, oh, this is a lot like my house, but for adults.
Nice.
And it made me walk taller. It's like, job done. This is exactly what I was looking for.
I love the fact that there's a vibe connected to that, to those programs, and a feeling connected to those programs, because the feeling is welcome. You're welcome here. And we don't ostracize people. Everybody matters. It's been an interesting journey. I remember having a conversation with someone who said to me once, there are always going to be those people who fall away. And I said, why? Why are there those people? I mean, what happens? What happens to them? Why are we accepting that as a community? We're complaining that we have the highest suicide rate in the nation. Why do we disallow that to happen? How do we fix that? And so what you're doing is such a huge key that turns in that unlocking the solutions to the high suicide rates, the high domestic violence rates, the high addiction rates. You are the door open to solving so many different problems with low barriers, with the mobile crisis team, and with all the community partners that, again, I can't believe that every community isn't focused on doing something similar. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you so much for being who you are, for the heart that you brought to that very first meeting, James, and for the flag that you continue to carry for those who are struggling and for people who are hurting, for the role modeling that you do and peer support that you do, standing in the gap and holding space for people to get well. Everybody doesn't come to the table well. Everybody doesn't come to the first meeting well. We have to hold space for them and allow them to grow into that person that they want to be. And it's been a pleasure watching you grow, James. Thank you for all of your hard work, your dedication. Please know on those hard days that we're walking with you, that we're proud of you, that we're excited about what you're doing, and we're so, so grateful for your steadfast commitment to helping others.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks for being part of our world.
Absolutely.
That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you, James, for being here. The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Isaac Smolden. I'm Michelle Overstreet. Until next time.